Can I just start in regards to the lockdown that's taking place right now? It does affect not just your business, but so many others in the CBD. We saw Woolworths this week write down the value of its metro stores. You know, the knock-on effect, and without necessarily having a plan for the future, it makes it hard for you to plan your business.
Ross, thanks for having me. But yeah, you're dead right. Hospitality and tourism is really hit by this, and that's a real problem. You know, we've got a restaurant here that seats 250 covers last night on a Saturday. We would have done that. We've got a 600-room hotel above us that probably has a few rooms in it, just trading now. So, you know, I mean, the government, whilst they've been good, you know, Dominic Perrottet has been great with the Dine and Discover vouchers, obviously the Friday lunch vouchers that were coming out. The city was coming back to full strength again. Our businesses were looking great. The government had done a good job. And I clap my hands to Gladys Berejiklian for that. But can we keep locking down cities like this, Ross? I mean, you know, you've had 5%, less than 5% of the population had the vaccine. So this is a real problem. I'm not sure for business to grow, how do we get people back into the city? Can cities, states keep doing this, keep closing down? Because the mental health issues that come with this and the businesses that will go under is a real problem. So the government, the federal government, needs to work on this plan, get people vaccinated. There's, you know, 50 hotels in this state with ballrooms to the size of 1,000 people. Why can't we get people vaccinated in empty hotels and things like that? Let's get a plan. Let's understand how we're going to move forward.
OK, yeah, but it is that plan, isn't it? Because there's the key right now. At some point, international borders will be opened. At some stage, there are going to be more instances of coronavirus in Australia. And so, therefore, vaccinations are one thing. But then, let's be honest here, even people who have already had 2 vaccinations, they're having to lock down as well. So, you know, somehow Australia has got to learn to live with it. There's no, you know, ability for Australia to necessarily completely wipe out all cases of coronavirus. And so these cities have got to learn, as US cities, as British cities have had to learn to live with the coronavirus. This is the absolute key if business is to continue and if we are ultimately to get back to what you'd call a normal way of life.
Well, you know, as I said before, the city was nearly back to normal, the CBD. Now, if we go longer than 2 weeks, which who knows, you know, what's being done now, I guess, is the right thing to be done. But, you know, look at Victoria. I've got friends with restaurants and hotels in the CBD there who are still really suffering. Now, they're on the 4 square metre rule still after being open for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now, our government, surely, Gladys Berejiklian, cannot follow that lead of keeping the square metre space and open slowly. We need to open back fully again when we can and learn to live with this. We just cannot keep shutting cities down to get through this. We've got to learn to live with it.
So, OK, so Luke, tell me about this, because now, of course, there is no JobKeeper this time around. The link between you and your staff,
no rent
obviously,
relief.
is the key. No rent relief as well. And so, you know, it's one of these points where now people such as yourself, businesses such as your suppliers and others are now effectively on their own in terms of doing this. So is it a time again, and I'm in the Victorian, certainly talked about this, that more needs to be done to make certain the businesses simply don't go under? Because you point out 2 weeks, maybe you can survive, but once it gets out to 3 or 4 weeks, that link with your suppliers, that link with your employees becomes very hard to finance.
That's the real problem. I think we do need to look at JobKeeper 2.0 here because, as you rightly said, it's tough. How do we keep engaged with our staff? The staff are really worried how long this is going to go for. Have they got a job when we reopen? You know, we were starting to bring everything back to normal. And as I said, you know, this government has done a great job up until now. Let's not follow Victoria and let's roll out a plan. Now, they are talking about a plan for that, for a new JobKeeper sort of thing, which is great, but no one knows how long this is going to go for. So that is a real problem.
So in your case, how many staff do you reckon you've got, and how many staff really you've got to make decisions about at some stage in the future? And the other problem about this is that there's already a shortage of labour. So for you to try and find a new chef, if you let a chef go or even a waiter go, they're valued staff that have been around for a long time. So the real danger here is there's a balancing act for many businesses comparing the labour shortages because you can't get the staff because the borders are closed, as compared with then saying, well, I've got to pay for staff simply because I might not be able to find them when eventually we open.
Well, Ross, not just only us in the hospitality industry, the tourism industry as well. Look at, for example, Bridge Climb and things like that, who have shut their whole business down for this 2 weeks when the peak of school holidays, hotels and cities and things like that, cleaners, baristas, waiters, bar staff. So I'm not speaking on just behalf of hospitality and tourism in this state, but I'm talking nationally in this country. Governments need to think about the repercussions of what goes on with these lockdowns. And can we do it a smarter way, a safer way? Whilst I applaud where we're at in this city, in New South Wales, we need to worry about what's going to happen in long-term future. There's been staff laid off. I don't know how many we're going to bring back because I don't know if we're going to open at full capacity, 25% capacity, 50% capacity, because the communication's not out there yet.
OK, so take me through the 4 square metre rule. I mean, is it actually worth your while opening your restaurant? Is it worthwhile for others to open their restaurants while they've got that 4 square metre rule? I mean, the margins aren't that, fat anyway to allow you to suddenly have a significant decrease in capacity. And besides that, you've got to then pay your staff, pay your suppliers, you've still got to stock up.
Exactly right. Look at all the food wastage we had when we got a notice on Thursday that we're closing our businesses down the next day, and we're all booked up for the whole weekends, with lots of covers. But it's a big problem. So we're lucky that we're in a big restaurant. We're in a nearly 800, 900 square metre restaurant here at Gladys Berejiklian at the Hilton. So that's okay for us. But you worry about the small operators and the roll-on effect to producers, that if your numbers are limited in the smaller restaurants, wine bars and cafes, that's the real problem. They're the ones who are going to suffer, and they're the ones who have probably got the cash flow to get through 3-4 weeks of this without JobKeeper and without rent relief. So they're the real problems, the small people in the hospitality and tourism sector.
And the other thing also, and let's not forget this, that we've got a cruise line industry in Australia that was one of our most lucrative, in fact, one of the most lucrative in the world, that has completely closed down. Of course, you were working with cruise lines up until the time that the pandemic has stopped. So from that point of view, there's another avenue, apart from international travel, apart from all the other things, that really, again, people are losing jobs, people are losing income. Australia is actually losing opportunity.
Well, as you know, Ross, the cruise business to Australia is worth $6 billion a year. It employs over 18,000 Australians. But then think of the producers, the suppliers who are missing out on selling that product to the cruise ships world. I think cruising, we've got to get through where we are now and understand it, but we've got to work to live with this situation. If cruising gets back, that'll come back slowly, I'm sure. The cruise industry will be smarter, it'll be safer. Staff will be vaccinated, passengers will be vaccinated, hopefully, because that cruise industry, Ross, as you're talking about, needs a good 3 to 4 months pathway to get ready to come back to normal. So, it's not just like the government saying, OK, we're going to open restaurants and cafes up next week or in 2 weeks' time. You just got to think about how we get there. And we do need a clear pathway, because if we keep shutting down in this country, big problems for the hospitality and tourism sector.
There you go, Luke Mangan from Gladys Berejiklian in the Sydney Hilton Hotel. Many thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Ross.